8-6 Colts, 8-6 Jags, 8-6 Texans. Man, there's a logjam at the top of the AFC South. We're going to cover all of that and more on this, the No Horsing Around podcast. What is up, Colts Nation? What is going on, No Horsing family? Welcome back to an episode of the No Horsing Around podcast. And today we're going to talk about the logjam that is the AFC South. It's crazy, right? Like, you know, 3 weeks ago, you had the Jaguars sitting at 8-3. They've lost 3 consecutive games. They're 8-6. Colts 8-6. Texans 8-6. It's not really what we thought going into the last 3 weeks, but man, oh man, is there not a logjam at the top of the conference, at the top of the division, and it's all really coming down to these final 3 weeks. How can this shake out, right? Like, what is going to happen? I'm going to look over the schedule with you guys on the remaining schedule for those 3 teams and who's most likely. What are those looking at? You know, about 4 weeks ago on this very show, we sat down and we did the last 7 weeks of the season prediction. I think I had the Colts, looking at the last 6 weeks, I had them losing to the Steelers, losing to the Texans at the end of it, and ended up, I believe, at 10-7. How does that change? We're going to look now at those records, right? So, I mean, the Colts, obviously, you go to Atlanta this week, right? Then you go, then you're home against, why am I spacing? I'm pulling up the schedule right now. You would think I'd know it off the top of my head. You go to Atlanta, then you at home against Vegas and home against the Texans. How do we see those 3 games shaping up, right? I mean, I feel confident in saying the Colts are going to win at Atlanta. I think they're going to win against Vegas. I think they go 2-0. I think they're going into that game at 10-6, just kind of like we were sitting there before against a Texans team, that it's going to be really interesting for them, right? Like, you look at the last game, probably by all metrics shouldn't have won. Probably looked at like they were playing with a B squad at that time. No Stroud, no Nico Collins, no Tank Dell, no Will Anderson Jr., no left tackle, no right tackle, no right guard. Like, they were depleted. They probably shouldn't have beat the Titans. They did end up beating the Titans 19-16 in overtime. But it's starting to look already. I mean, it is only Tuesday as of the recording of this, but it is looking very likely that CJ Stroud is going to be out again this week. That's against the Browns. And that's a big game, not looking at the AFC South, but that's a big game for the AFC playoff race and the wild card in general, right? Because the Browns also sit at 8-6, own the tiebreaker against the Colts because of kind of that cheap win that they got earlier in the season. But, you've got the Texans going to the Browns, or home for the Browns, home against the Titans, and then at the Colts. I don't think they're going to beat the Browns without C.J. Stroud. That's going to be a big hit. I think they're probably going to beat the Titans again. And then it comes down to that week 18 game at the Colts. That's going to be a massive game. I think we saw it tweeted out earlier that there's a chance, hey man, if they do beat the Browns and then they do beat the Titans, that could be a flex into a primetime game, because that is a win and you're in kind of thing, right? Like, win and you're in, and the wild card could potentially, we're going to look at the Jaguars here in a second, but could potentially mean win and you win the division, depending on how that looks. So, I mean, it's going to be very interesting. This weekend for them, I think, is an extremely interesting game, because they're going to be without C.J. Stroud again. Lastly, looking at the AFC South, right? You have the Jaguars. Jaguars were looking great, 8-3. They drop one to the Bengals. They drop another one to the Browns. They get mollywopped by the Ravens. Okay, now they're going to the Buccaneers, then at home against the Panthers, and at home against the Titans. That's a tough one, man. You look over that. I mean, you look at that and you go, man, they should probably go 3-0. They probably should. The Bucs are okay. They're 7-7. They are fighting for a division. That looks to be probably the toughest game on their schedule. Playing at Tampa, they should easily beat the Panthers And I would assume that they should beat the Titans, right? Looking at the Titans, I don't know. They could be without Will Levis at that point. They could be sitting him because of the injury that he sustained in the last Texans game, right? But when you're looking at the Jaguars, how disappointing is this for them? If any Jaguar fans are watching this, how disappointing is this for you, right? This was supposed to be your division. This was your year. You have Trevor Lawrence. You have Christian Kirk. You have Calvin Ridley and Travis Etienne. You have Doug Peterson, the ex-Super Bowl winning head coach. You have all this. You made the playoffs. You won a game last year. This was your division. You're in a division with a young rebuilding Colts, a young rebuilding Texans, and now a young rebuilding Titans. Titans are garbage. We found that out this year. The Texans rebuild quick, and they've got the quarterback. Colts look to have rebuilded quick. We think we have the quarterback from what we saw. We know we have the coach, right? So how disappointing is this for you that you're fighting for the division in a year that you probably should have just easily handled it? If I'm looking at it, I mean, the Bucs is their toughest game. You drop that, that's a big deal, man. You're now sitting at 8-7, 9-7, 10-7. It's the best you can do. We just mapped it out. If the Colts and Texans can take care of business, that week's 18 game is for 11-6. Is that right? Yeah, 11-6, and that's the division. So what do y'all think? And then I want to hear from you guys in the comments what you guys think of these schedules. How do you see it mapping out? And I think the most interesting thing, too, is someone posted up on Twitter or X today and showed some of the information about it and showed that not all games really for the Colts are the same. If they lose against the Falcons, that's an NFC game that doesn't necessarily hurt them. They go from, if they win out, having a 99% chance to make the playoffs, to if they lose to the Falcons and then they win out, it's like 93. That being said, they should take care of business in Atlanta this weekend. But like I said, what do y'all think? Drop it in the comments. Let me know. Please do all those great things, right? Like, rate, review, share, subscribe, ding the bell, join the family. Let me know what you guys think. This is a crucial stretch, you guys. We're going into the final 3 weeks of the season. I don't think any of us thought we'd be sitting where we were. I think the high end of my prediction was 7 wins. Maybe I think I may have said 7-9, but don't quote me on that. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be fun. We're going to be here with you all along the way, and maybe we're going to talk about some playoff games for the first time in No Horsing Around history. But as always, I end these things the same way I always do. I love you. The Colts love you. Zach loves you. I'm out.